Turns out we just might be the world's sugar daddy. The House voting to advance foreign aid packages for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, totaling $95 billion.
And as the packages head to the Senate, our next guest is urging Republicans to hashtag kill the bill. Joining us now is Utah Senator Mike Lee. I love that hashtag you have. Sounds like you clipped it from Larry Kudlow, though. But I have to ask, originally, weren't these things supposed to be separate? We'd have three separate bills for three separate countries because their cases are all so different. How did they come together as take them all or take nothing?
Yeah, Republicans in both houses of Congress have been arguing for a long time that they ought to be addressed separately. You shouldn't use support for Israel to leverage yet additional money to Ukraine, where we've already sent $113 billion so far, more than any other nation, every other nation on earth combined. And yet that's exactly what they did. So they passed these nominally as separate bills in the House, technically 4 different bills. Those bills, through an obscure House procedure, then magically merged together into one bill that we receive and process as one bill in the Senate. This is some trickery that I don't like or appreciate, and this is really Republican on Republican violence. Republican members didn't want this. This is why this is yet another instance where you've got a whole lot more Democratic support behind a bill. A minority of Republicans support it, but this goes against what most Republicans and most of the voters who put them in office want.
Senator, great to see you, by the way. A lot of the conservative opinion pieces have just given hosannas to this passing out of the House about this is America being strong. This is, people who voted against it are isolationist is one word that I saw. And I thought, well, one, why can't we protect this country first? Why can't we pay for it? And our greatest national security threat is arguably our national debt, given the fact that we're paying more for interest on the debt in the first 6 months of the fiscal year than we are spending on our national defense. Where are the real conservatives on that?
The real conservatives don't like this deal for the very reasons that you mentioned. Number one, this is money we don't have. This is going to result in more borrowing, more printing of money. Americans are already having to shell out an additional $1,000 every single month just to live, for basic living expenses. And this makes that worse. Number two, we have now jettisoned the best, perhaps the only remaining bargaining power we had, namely support for exactly what they wanted with Ukraine, without getting anything in return that's important to us. Most importantly, the other biggest threat to our American national security right now, which is our wide open southern border, through which we've allowed anywhere from 8 to 13 million people to enter our country unlawfully in just the last 3 years alone. With people coming from all over the world, including many thousands just from China of military-aged men. This is a huge threat to our national security. This was one shot that we had, and this was something that united Republicans for months. We said, we don't want to give more money to Ukraine, and if we ever gave an additional dime, it would need to be attached to a vehicle that would simultaneously defang the border invasion, forcing Biden's hand so that he didn't have the ability to facilitate the invasion. We've now blown that away.
Senator, we want to shift gears to something else that blew our minds. A new report out this afternoon by a UN-appointed commission saying that Israeli authorities have failed to provide any evidence to support their claims that staff members at the UN relief and works agencies are linked to terrorist groups like Hamas. So, Senator, you introduced a bill. It was called Act to Defund and Depart the UN. It was a push for the U.S. to just completely withdraw from the UN. Doesn't this prove that there's no way they can reform themselves, that they can look objectively at their own faults?
Yes, this is number 4,138 by my count of reasons why we need to defund the United Nations. Look, we spend close to $20 billion a year in UN dues. That money is used against us and against our allies. One struggles to come up with something tangible, meaningful, good or even not terrible that the UN does. This report is further evidence of that. Moreover, this report, even if you accepted every one of its factual assertions on its face, which you can't do, but even if you did, it still doesn't undo all that we know about UNRWA. Doesn't undo the fact that UNRWA has for decades been using U.S. money filtered through the United Nations to sow anti-Semitism and hate toward Jewish people throughout the areas surrounding Israel. This is wrong, and it's yet another reason why the American people need to wake up, and they need to get us out of paying these dues to the United Nations.
All right, Senator. By the way, it was shown that several UNRWA members actually went into Israel on October 7th and participated in the massacre. Senator Mike Lee, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.